Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Good morning, Rob Browne here with you on this Friday edition of Sidelines, and I've got a great show in store for you today. Going to kick it off with Dan Mathews, executive producer of Southern Sports Today. Chuck and Chernoff over in Atlanta, 680 The Fan. Second segment, we will be joined by Hunter Baughman, champion bass fisherman out of Judsonia, Arkansas. An incredible story with what he does. Fishes all over the country, about 9 months out of the year, and then the rest of the time, he's deer hunting or duck hunting. This is incredible, but he is an elite fisherman. Met him last week over in Wynn at Red River Ford Toyota. Our number two, we'll be joined by Bo Carter, National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America out in Dallas, formerly with the Big 12 office, and also Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal down in Savannah. Will check in with us as well. There's a lot to talk about. You can catch us 6 days a week, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Monday through Saturday. www.sidelines.live. Watch us live on YouTube. And if you miss it, go back at the website and hear it, as Nigel says, at your leisure. Follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. And so there's so much happening right now. And over here in Atlanta, I'm over here at Mallory and Tyler's with the baby, and about a mile from the Battery. And dadgummit, the Braves aren't in town this week, but watched them play up in Cleveland this week, and I mean, what a dynasty they're building, Dan. It's like a great college football program. You don't have to look far around here. Athens to the east, Tuscaloosa to the west, but it reminds me a lot of that, and that's hard to do in pro sports.
Well, I mean, they definitely are well built. There's no doubt about it. You know, I referenced this with somebody yesterday, the graphic that somebody showed, I think it was Talking Baseball on Twitter, of the Mets and all the money they have tied up into Scherzer and Verlander. And then the Braves have that same amount of money, even less, tied up in 7 to 8 different guys for the next 6 to 7 years. So this doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. As a matter of fact, I mean, it looks like, you know, it's going to speed up even more. We'll see what happens, especially too with the Braves going independent of Liberty Media, a report we saw the other day of front office sports. So we'll see what that means for them. But in terms of just, you know, what they've been doing so far, and a couple of years ago, the World Series win, and, you know, way it looks like this season's going right now, it's a good time to be a Braves fan. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it is. And you think about, you know, Tyler, Braves fans are they're on another level. They know everything about every player. You're talking about Michael Harris Jr. out of South Atlanta, 3 years in the minors. Last year, he's the number 9 hitter. He makes he's National League Rookie of the Year. Alex Anthopoulos, tell people about him. Is he the baseball version of Bobby Beathard or Gil Brandt from the Cowboys?
He's sure looking like it, isn't he, Rob? I mean, you know, in terms of the moves that he's made, I will say this. The two greatest things I think about Anthopoulos is something that I heard one of our guys mention on air yesterday. Number one is his transparency to a point. You don't get that a lot from executives. As a matter of fact, a lot of executives are buttoned up. Their way of going casual is a nice little pullover and some jeans, but you know, it doesn't seem like, you know, Alex kind of fits that mold a little bit. The other thing as well is following his convictions. You know, he doesn't spend money. And he's talked openly about his time, you know, where he had and the back on him. Let's hear bad and her spending hard money or they not in case free and Swan going there.
And Dan, you're breaking. I can barely hear you. You're breaking up. I don't know what happened, but if you could, maybe you'll get a connections better now. But you were talking about Anthopoulos and how just relaxed he is.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's also too he doesn't spend bad money. I mean, you know, not to say that Freddie Freeman and Dansby Swanson would have been bad money, but I think we can agree right now, even though Swanson's an all-star and Freddie's an all-star in both Chicago and LA, that the Braves at least didn't strike out on not bringing those guys back. I mean, Matt Olson, one of the league leaders in home runs and RBI. He's an all-star. Orlando Arcia is an all-star starter at shortstop. And Alex took a lot of heat for letting both of those guys go. But he's turned out to have made the right decision, at least a good decision in not spending more money at two crucial positions.
Andrew, I got a question for you. A couple of years ago, I'm watching a game with Billy Roberts up here, and I guess it was during the playoffs. And he said, Liberty Media, $147 million payroll for the Braves, Dodgers over $250 million. So there's a question that just came in from a listener in Valdosta, and he said, ask Dan, if he would please, to expand on the independence from Liberty Media. That's a huge story, seismic shift in sports to me in the modern day that we live in.
Yeah, so I wish I had more information on it, but from what I understand is that they are going to be independent on their own, where they will control the battery, they will control their own TV, they will control, just the everyday operations itself. So that's as far as I know. I don't know if there is still going to be any payouts or anything else of the sort. I'm sure that probably that will be announced by the Braves, or we'll see other reports. I wish I had more information, but I mean, I think if nothing else, it begs the question of, does that allow for the Braves to be able to at least make faster decisions as opposed to going through this vast corporation and trying to vet it out that way? That's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see. But I think if nothing else, from what I understand, the Braves were pretty independent already. Terry McGurk was trusted with making the day-to-day operations on the ground here. And obviously Alex Anthopoulos as president of baseball ops, same deal.
Yeah. Dan, and we're having a little bit of trouble with the connection. I don't know.
It really would just be a guest at this point.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this now. When the Braves, I mean, they're going to be in Tampa tonight. Are those the two best teams in baseball? It's pretty obvious, correct?
Well, I mean, I think that Tampa, obviously is a team that's played incredibly well to this point. My question with them is, can that hitting hold up? Because they're a team that even through this run that they've had in recent years, making it to the World Series a couple of years ago, and also too, just what they've been able to do these past few years, the pitching has not been an issue. And the guy going tonight for Tampa is coming back from Tommy John and Tyler Glasnow, who's been one of their better pitchers for some time. Right now, it's Shane McClanahan is the guy that really is carrying the water for them there. But, I mean, obviously, Randy Arozarena is an all-star. You've also gotten good things so far out of Yandy Diaz and also out of Wander Franco. But in terms of, the overall matchup with the lineups, I love the Braves. Now, here's the thing, though. Tropicana Field is, from all accounts I've heard from opposing hitters, is a really tough place to hit. The shadows, I mean, it's a dark, just different sight lines than what you get from an open air stadium or even a retractable roof stadium where even some natural light can come in. It's a little bit different to hit in. And I go back to a conversation I had years ago with Mark Grace when he was on the Diamondbacks broadcast. And he talked about, and he was looking out to the outfield at Minute Maid Park, and he said, gosh, how much better it would have been to have hit here. He goes, I knew every time we started a series inside the Astrodome, I was going to take an 0 for 4. It took me a day to be able to try to get my eyes. And then the next day, I kind of had a good idea of vantage points and release points and everything of the such. So, it's going to be interesting to see, how quickly they adjust there at the Troupe. But it's fun seeing from all on Twitter today. All teams sold out, which I believe there's a Braves fan there, and so it's really that trip. Metro people down.
Yeah, Dan.
Campus, Clearwater, fun.
Yeah, you're breaking up again. I don't know if you're moving or under a bridge or what have you, but I lost you there for a second. But I'm going to go in. Got the next question. And can you hear me better now?
I've got you great.
Okay. You were breaking up a little bit on your side, but so I wanted to ask you now, and if you and Chuck may have gotten into this topic on Southern Sports Today, which, by the way, folks, do yourselves a favor. After this show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, Southern Sports Today. Chuck Oliver's on there, Dan Mathews, executive producer. They talk nothing but college football year-round. You got to love it. So get your 4-hour fix. That is a great show. Have you all talked much about, and I'm not saying that, A&M did anything illegal. We've had this discussion on the show this week. They go get Cam Cameron, number one player in Alabama. There are all kind of rumors and innuendos out there about NIL and Auburn and Clemson and LSU and Alabama and the other schools that were in his top 5 kind of supposedly laughed. But Texas has got their own rule. All the states do. But doesn't the Southeastern Conference have some power? I mean, look what they did to the states of Mississippi and Georgia with their state flags. They said, we will not have any SEC championship events in your state until you change your flags. Can't the SEC say to Texas, there will be no fun of any kind, no championships in the state of Texas until you get that law in accordance with? But again, we're not there yet, but it's going to take something like that because nobody has more money than Texas and Texas A&M.
Well, here's what it comes down to, and what I would say about anybody who, is upset about not getting a player and the perceived reason is NIL. Yeah. Prove it. I mean, prove
exactly.
it. I mean, that's just the thing. I'm sorry, but, people being upset about not getting a player is a tradition as old as the sport itself in college football. It's either a reaction like that or it's a reaction of denial where it's, oh, well, we didn't need them anyway. Well, you sure were hot and heavy about thinking you were going to get them, yeah. And all of a sudden you didn't get them. So, I mean, what's the disconnect here? What am I missing for the correlation here? But, I mean, that's just the whole part of it, as well as I understand what the reputation it was with A&M. I remember the video last year of one of their assistant coaches. And, I think that more than anything, it just kind of goes to show what we know about Jimbo Fisher. He's an outstanding recruiter. He is, from what we understand, a good offensive mind. It's just been getting it done on game day. Yeah. And, we have Dave Bartu on every single week from College Football Matrix. And Dave has talked about, really just Jimbo as a game day coach. And he said that's where he's lacked. And that's where they've lost games. And on the most recent episode that I have coming up of the Southern Beat, I had David Nuno from TexAgs.com on with me yesterday. And he talked about the amount of one-score games that they were in last year where they were 5-7. And he mentioned that, if you score a touchdown more a game, that you have a chance to be able to hopefully flip that around and become a 9-3, 10-2 team. So, A&M, as you mentioned, they're going to have the resources. They're going to have the money there to be spent. It's just, can you get it done on game day? A lot of people believe last year that talent was just too young and wasn't ready to be able to meet the challenge that most people have hoped that they would meet under Jimbo Fisher. Now we'll see if that's another year under a lot of that experience, if they're able to do that. But in terms of the sour grapes of losing Cam Coleman, I mean, I just, if you really think that every single guy is going to say yes to your school, then I think you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, and I agree with you about that narrative. As an Auburn guy, I've heard it. If the guy goes here, oh, they must have paid him. We didn't want him anyway. He had a glass eye and one leg was 6 inches shorter than the other. I've heard it. Yeah. You hear it all. But this one, I think what it is, every state has their own rule, and they're saying in Texas that who cares what the NCAA says, and really the NCAA is winless in court. They can't win because they have no subpoena power. I don't know what it is, but it is just that one, and there's tons of players out there, but you're right. And it's I just wanted to ask you if you all have talked about it much, and I'll have Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, on the show this week. And Olin, he's a truth broker. I mean, he knows that he covered Texas for 12 years with the Austin American Statesman with Kirk Bowles, and He covers A&M now, so it'll be fun to watch. Let's switch gears. I know you've got about 5 or 6 minutes before you got a big day ahead of you. In college football, we've got media days coming up the 17th, and we call it the unofficial start of the college football season. But what are some of the big stories that you're seeing developing? And by the way, I'm getting a lot of people saying, wow, the Liberty Media separation is a big deal. And I got to go back to it one more time. Do you like it? But then I want to talk some more college football.
Well, we'll start with Liberty first. I mean, I would say that I don't know much about it yet, and I don't know what the separation looks like. But I mean, that's as far as I can go on that. I hope so. I mean, if that means that all of a sudden they kind of get a wild hair and say, that Otani guy, let's make this happen, then sure, it's awesome. I mean, we definitely want to have good players here, and I think if nothing else, the way that this team is situated the next few years, I think you're kind of in that window where you can take a shot like that and spend a little bit more than maybe you're comfortable on. So, Alex Anthopoulos has said he's never been limited in terms of what he was allowed to spend. And I think that more than anything, he just wanted to be responsible with what he could spend. So, I guess the long answer is I just don't know what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, it's significant for sure. It'll be fun. And as far as college football, everybody is talking about Georgia. And I got to ask you this. I got a bunch of texts last night that said, ask Dan his thoughts on Georgia. And everybody forever has talked about the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, doesn't like Georgia and whatever. And they're trying to save the paper by going after Georgia. Well, that wouldn't make sense because they're located amongst a lot of Georgia fans. But what are you and Chuck talking about on the show and your thoughts on the situation at Georgia? They're not the first college to have some kids get in trouble.
No, they're not. And there was the Athens Banner-Herald report yesterday of a kid getting busted going 88 and a 55. I mean, obviously with what happened in January, it's a very serious situation with two kids that died. I mean, one a player, one a recruiting staffer, and the two kids that passed away. So it's a very sad situation. It's a very sad story. But the question that I have for people of, Kirby's got to do something. Is he going to kick somebody off the team for speeding? I mean, I think that you're kind of setting a dangerous precedent and going down a slippery slope. Now, I mean, I get it. I think that probably, with some of these cases that we've seen, that there does need to be discipline. There's no reason to be going 120 in a 65-mile-an-hour zone. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah. That's ridiculous. That's dangerous. That's absurd. Yes. And it needs to be handled as much more than showing videos of drag racing in the streets of Atlanta. That's not going to get it done. I mean, let's go back to when we were younger, Rob. We're in health class and we're being told about certain things. We were just told about it and we're like, whatever. It ain't me. I don't need to worry about it until it is you. And I would kind of hope that if nothing else, the scared straight message needs to be, where's Devin now? Where's Madison? Where are they?
Yeah.
It's as harsh, but I think that the reminder needs to be, guys, you're not invincible. You can die doing this.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that you're living on a tightrope whenever you take to the road that way. Now, in terms of the AJC, I think the Alan Judd piece was an absolute disgrace. And he wants to hide behind it was investigative journalism. It wasn't investigative journalism. It was a hit piece. Yeah. And you tried to sully the reputation of a now 17-year-old kid to try to prove your point when the next day Jake Rowe of Dogs HQ proved, no, here's a text message exchange. This is why police decided to not press charges. It wasn't the Athens Banner-Herald nudging the Georgia program and Brian Gant and Kirby Smart and saying, hey guys, we're gonna we'll make this go away for you. I mean, it's almost like they're like trying to like make this into like The Wire Copland or something like that. Like there's this vast conspiracy to help the Georgia football program. I mean, it's crazy because a couple of years ago, Georgia fans would think the Athens Clark County Police were too hard on Georgia football players. So it's just, I thought it was disgusting. And This guy wants to hide behind that he's an investigative journalist. My question to him would be, what about this was investigative journalism, other
Yeah.
than slighted narrative that was being crafted? And that's really, when I read it, I just said, I don't feel like this was investigative journalism. I feel like this was very much a gotcha, and people hide behind, oh, journalists are doing such good work. If you don't want to be challenged on your work, then you're in the wrong business. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Dan, if you and I went public on the airwaves with every rumor, every story, every tidbit of information, private conversations off the record that we had, could you imagine? And that's what I think's going on is that, and I know, God, when I was a TV reporter in Columbus, I remember stories, people came to us with stuff. And I just remember Reagan, 87 in Reykjavik to Gorbachev, trust but verify about the ICBMs. And I think about nowadays, it's not getting it right. It's getting it first. Just splatter something out there.
Yep.
The old James Carville type of journalism. And that's not right. Sometimes you're going to be a little bit late to the party, but damn it, get it right. You can destroy people's reputations. You're talking, I mean, a 16, 17-year-old kid. I mean, your brain doesn't even fully develop till you're 25. And some people, it never happens. But I agree with you. It's disgraceful. Hiding behind the cloak. It's like people who hide behind the cloth and say, they're a pastor and they're doing all kind of nefarious things on the side. If you're going to be an investigative journalist, get both sides of it and don't run the story until you've got it right.
Well, here's where, I come from a family of attorneys. I don't appreciate people who talk legalese that they don't understand. That's my whole thing is we do a good job, I feel like, at 680 of having our legal experts, Ray Giudice, Bruce Hagen, on with us. And notice what I said, legal experts, not people who I feel like are going to be able to verify what I want to be verified of a narrative, because that's really what it felt like. It was the case. And, I am in no way a water carrier for Georgia. I mean, if Georgia did things wrong and they did try to intimidate people and try to sweep things under the rug, then they should answer for it. But I just don't feel like that was the case.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I appreciate you saying that, because I have Jack Turner, our attorney, on the show with us, and he is our legal guy. And, you ask him about NIL and he'll tell you about how the Sherman antitrust rules, were made by Congress years ago. They're the only ones who can change it. You need to get the people. You're right. My grandfather taught law. He was a judge. So I totally respect and get what you said, Dan. Look, I know you got to get going. I wish we could have you longer. Anytime you are available, we love having you on. You were fantastic. Tell people how they can follow you and what y'all will be talking about on the show today.
Yeah, we are going to be talking some Miami with our good buddy John Michaels. We're going to talk some more ACC with Roddy Jones. We are also going to get into, let's see who I have at the top of my mind. Keith Niebuhr is going to join us, as well as we'll get into some of the other topics that are happening in college football. I got to remember who I had as our 11:30 the bottom of hour one guest. I guess the coffee hasn't kicked in yet, but 11 to 1 Eastern. Listen, Southern Sports Today app, wherever you get to see the Chuck Oliver show, that's where you can pull us up.
Hey, look, thanks as always for being on here, Dan. Unavowed Astros fan, LSU man, but a fair adjudicator of the truth, and I respect the hell out of it. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
See you, buddy. Enjoy.
All right, you bet. That is Dan Mathews, and I'm telling you what, he's right. I don't care who you're a fan of. There's such a sardonic, sarcastic attitude, narrative out there among people. Oh, Georgia's out of control. Look, I'm an Auburn man saying this. You've got to be fair. I think Auburn people remember who stepped up for Auburn and who tried to throw Auburn into the ash heap of hell during the Cam Newton saga, okay? There were people you were shocked that came up, but those are people that are true grit journalists, and damn it, get it right, or don't run the story at all. Yeah, and I agree with Dan. Trying to hide behind the so-called, investigative journalism, what does that really mean? I mean, it's we've all seen what 60 Minutes what 60 Minutes can do. 60 Minutes says they're coming to your office. The person they're coming to interview is probably trying to rappel down the side of the office building from the 50th floor, because they usually don't do it. We don't teach journalism like we used to. We'll get into that in hour number 2 with Bo Carter, who does teach journalism and is on the National Football Foundation writer, a Baseball Writers of America, sports information director for years in the Southeastern Conference at Mississippi State. Look, anybody can. They can get, there are millions of podcasts out there. There's millions of platforms out there where people can go. But trust but verify. Ronald Reagan said it so well at the Reykjavik Summit in Iceland in 1987. He looked Mikhail Gorbachev in the eye and said, okay, you're telling me that basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm going to trust but verify. You got to do that. And again, it's just unbelievable. Some of the, some of the stories that come out, and just complete lies. Again, Georgia, they got some guys doing some stupid stuff, and they need to handle that internally, just like I would do if my kids are adults now. But still, if you got an 18-year-old driving 88 and a 55, make him run stadiums. Put a 50-pound vest on him full of sand. Make him run 500 stadiums up and down is one deal. That'll get their attention. Otherwise, you're just enabling. So be very careful. You pick the school. Look what happened to LSU after they won the national championship in 2019. Coach O, I don't know. He just lost control. Sometimes it's more fun to watch the journey to the top of the mountain than it is to watch the fall from grace. That's what happens. We in America love to build people up. We love to build athletes up, movie stars, political people, whatever. The great poet John Keats said famously, you can bring up any man's body from the grave and carve up a bad side on him. It doesn't matter who it is. They've all got them. We've all got them. And it's those Pollyannas and those self-righteous, pretentious people that are telling you all the time. I've had enough of the Big Ten running their damn yappers about how virtuous they are, and the SEC, all they do is cheat. Shut up. Put your lip over your head and swallow. Not true. Again, we talk about Michigan, Ohio State trying to accuse schools in the South of malfeasance and doing things the wrong way. You got to put it aside. Let me tell you something. The Southern schools since 1970 have won, I think it's 19 or 20 national championships. The Big Ten, 2.5. They won one in 1970. I'm talking since 2002, Ohio State. 5 seconds after the game was over, they gave the game to Ohio State. Miami really won that game. And then in 2014, Ohio State beat Oregon. But as far as this narrative that the Southern schools are out of control and they're looking at Georgia right now, whatever, not true. They're, you can look up under any skirt of any school in America, basically, and find something wrong. So be careful, whether you like Georgia or not. You're going to say something, get it right. Hey, Hunter Baughman's on here with us right now. Hunter, met you last week. We were talking with Dan Mathews over here. I'm in Atlanta for a few days at my daughter's, and we're talking college football. We were talking about what's going on with Georgia. You live in Judsonia, Arkansas, don't you?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
The tailwaters of the Red River, Little Red River, and not too about 45 minutes from Little Rock. Met you last week at Red River Ford Toyota over in Wynn. That's one of our sponsors. And you and Mark Rose were there. Man, there were a lot of people there. And I started thinking, man, our audience is all over the place. We're podcast and onto radio as well. And, 72% males, 28% females, and we're growing. Women love sports, but women love fishing too. We went up on the Spring River Saturday, and Sunday we were on the river, 7 canoes worth at Dam 3. And, man, we caught 119 rainbow trout and kept 55 of them. 11 of us were fishing, 11 legal limits of 5, just to put that out there for clarity. And trust me, I'm always the one with the dog over the years, duck hunting, and 1, 2, 3. Hold on, wait, 1, 2, 3, and try explaining to the game warden, who's always at the end of the road. When you do something like that, and be forthcoming if you ever do it, and say, I'm one over. I'm telling you on the front end, I lost track, but we caught so many fish, had such a great time, and half of it, were women, and they were fishing like crazy. They love it. And we've got a lot of women sports fans. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. Okay, I'm over in Atlanta, one of them right now. I actually got a compliment, and it's hard to do. They're 23 to 34 in age. Dad, thanks so much for introducing us to the outdoor life. And a lot of it happened, especially when I was going through my divorce, my first marriage. They had to go to the duck camp all the time. They were there all the time. But I had great friends that were just absolutely, man, bring them in, but they learned about, you got to work, make the place better than it was. Fishing, hunting, the outdoors. I love what you do. You're a badass. I watched a lot of your interviews before this interview. I watched Bass University. Those guys, they were enamored with you. But the bottom line is, you're an ass-kicking fisherman. You get out there, you do it, you go all over the country. Let's talk about what it is like to be a competitive fisherman and how you got your start. And thank you, by the way, for being on our show.
Well, hey, thank you for having me. The fishing, that's all I've known, really. I grew up in a family that was outdoors all the time, like you're talking about. Don't remember my first fishing trip. Have hunted since before I could remember, carried along as well. And, I fished. My family, it's what I call meat fishermen. I mean, they wanted to catch crappie or brim or whatever bit, but that we were going to eat them, when we caught them. And that was fun. But somewhere along the way, I kind of got in a competition of bass fishing somewhere in my mid-teens. And I thought it was really cool. I'm a amputee below both knees. I'm in a wheelchair. So, sports, football, basketball, even though I played basketball and soccer in school and junior high, it wasn't like I wasn't good. I was terrible. And
a lot of us were.
Do what?
Said a lot of us were.
Yeah, right. But I'm so competitive, and I wanted something to compete in. And I got the bright idea there was a big bass bonanza tournament on the Arkansas River, and I talked my dad into fishing it. And we had this tiny boat, and we talked to a boat manufacturer that we knew the owner of at the time to sponsor us a boat for the tournament. And we did terrible, but it was like, man, this is cool. I like this part of it. I like the competition part of it. So I kind of pursued it a little bit, did a lot of team fishing through my teens with a partner. And then somewhere around the time I graduated high school, I started doing some individual stuff, fishing some BFLs, which is state level, then some regional level stuff, and realizing I was having success, at every level, at least a little bit of success, enough to move to the next level. And it just kind of snowballed. I'm 36 years old, and I've been doing it nationally for 3 years now, but it's been a long process to get there.
Yeah. Your kids like fishing? Your wife like fishing?
My wife likes fishing if it's exactly 70 degrees and there's no wind and it's sunny but not hot, and they bite every throw.
Yeah, of course.
Like, my kids, one's 7 months old, one just turned 2. So, yeah. I mean,
they'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's cool is when you go out, and I've got a good friend, David Hager, who's in my hunting club. We hunt over, I have a hunting club, the Cherry Farm over in Parkin, Arkansas. We all live in Memphis. Half of us do. The other half live in Nashville and Huntsville and Birmingham. It's amazing how many people come from all over the country to Arkansas. It's not a joke. They call it the natural state. Growing up in Memphis, man, I crossed that river. I mean, I might as well be in Arkansas anyway. I mean, I spent so much time over there.
Man, it's crazy. I was at where was I? Santee Cooper in South Carolina 6 weeks or so ago for a tournament. I'm fishing, in the middle of a swamp. I mean, and I run up on a flat bottom, and the guys are talking to me, and they see, my registration number's on my boat, and they say, "Oh, you're from Arkansas," and I said, "Yeah." "Oh, yeah, I've been to DeWitt." Where else they say? They didn't say Stuttgart, but DeWitt and somewhere else. And I said, "Well, you're ducking."
Humnoke.
There's literally no other reason to go to those towns.
Yeah. Humnoke, Slovak, England, Gillette, Ulam. Man, I know them all. But listen, Highway 70, listen, if you're going to go through Duvall's Bluff, by God, you better stop at Craig's Barbecue. And
That's
but we
right.
see people from all over the country come in there in Brinkley at Gene's Barbecue. You know, so John Rocker, the old pitcher for the Braves, you go back in the back there because you could bring your own coolers full of road sodas in there. Man, I mean, and I say South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Nashville. I mean, we got a lot of members from those places. It's just unbelievable, the popularity. But and as great as the duck hunting is, and over there in the Cherry Farm, we're in Cross County. We are surrounded on 3 sides by rice, 1 by beans. I wish it was all 4 beans because the mosquitoes, they knock on the door and go, all right, time to donate blood. And sometimes they don't even ask. It's a completely self-sustaining state. And you grew up there. You represent Arkansas. You take a hell of a lot of pride in that, don't you, when you go around the country?
Absolutely, I do. I've never lived more than, as far as I am now, from Little Rock, 60-mile circle of Little Rock my whole life.
Yeah. Well, and I think about you do mainly bass fishing. Do you do much trout fishing at all?
I don't. Hardly ever. We actually used to go float the Spring River 3 or 4 times a year, every year for years when I lived at home with my parents. And, that was our trout fishing. Other than that, my dad's still a big crappie fisherman. He'll bass fish with me, but I crappie fish with him 2 or 3 times a year. I might brim fish 2 or 3 times a year. Other than that, it's all bass.
All right, so now let's start getting into this. A lot of people are asking, they're saying, these guys they're competitive fishermen, and people, and I'm like you. I like to win. I don't care what it is. I want to be the first one out of bed in the morning, and that's a great thing that you've got. It's organic because you can't yell at somebody and make them great. People say, hey, I'm going to go get started. I really want to start fishing. And it's almost like we need to have man camp nowadays. I mean, my wife started that. We call it over at the club. Do you know how to split firewood and work a wood splitter? You know how to, ride a John Deere mower? You know how to gut a deer, clean a fish, clean a duck? I mean, things like that. But we've emasculated so much of the country, but really we use this term heroes way too much nowadays. But what is a hero? Well, you need mentors. You need heroes. You need people that you want to look up to. But getting people outside. We had Jason Gay from the Wall Street Journal on last Friday. He does a lot of feature writing. He wrote about those 2 young fellas down at Auburn that won the bass fishing championship. They won $1 million. He goes, it was crazy. He lives in Baltimore. He goes, I went to interview him. They had 5 bass boats in their driveway there in college. Now, I just had one graduate from Auburn a year ago, and it took only 5 years. But, he was redshirted once, but I was redshirted twice. But bottom line is this stuff is growing in popularity in America. Talk about what you're doing to even make it better.
Man, it is. The high school and college fishing is like exploded. I missed it. High school wasn't a thing when I graduated. College was beginning to become a thing, but where I went to school, it never happened.
Yeah.
Before I got out of there, but it's growing, and there's so many camps and different things that the professionals are doing now to help teach these kids. Once they get to college, there's not as much, but as kids in high school, there's so many different opportunities through sponsors, through different camps that they can be sent to, just like sports camps. Yeah.
So when you go out and you travel, I grew up and live in Memphis, and we're in Parkin, which is 30 minutes away, the hunting camp. So we're commuting, and I'm over there all the time. But Bill Dance, that was our guy. We live in Memphis, and I went to school. I sat behind one of his sons in physical science, and I never cheated off of him. I can tell you that. I didn't cheat anyway. But anyway, fishing is a big deal. And I remember a funny story. A friend of mine told me about Johnny Morris was with Bill Dance in the Wolf River Harbor, and we trained there a lot for the canoe races. And he said, Bill, get me in that pyramid. And he goes, well, it's closed. It's abandoned. He goes, don't you know everybody in town? He goes, well, let me make a call. Next thing you know, somebody comes over there and they open it up and he looks around and he goes, he did it. He made it that Bass Pro. I'm sure you've been there to it, but that's, I think along with Graceland and the Smoky Mountains, it's one of the top 2, maybe 3 tourist attractions in the state. Isn't that great? And it's all about hunting and fishing. What better way to spend time? What does Ted Nugent say? Take your kids hunting and fishing so you don't have to go hunting and fishing for your kids.
That's it. That's right, man. And the pyramid is such a neat place. It's got the Ducks Unlimited Museum in it. And it's a really neat place. We take the The youngest baby hadn't yet, but we took the 2-year-old last year to the zoo at Memphis and then went over there and hung out the pyramid. And, just old country boy can't pass up a Bass Pro when you pass one.
No. All right. So now you go out on the road and give advice. We got a lot of people are asking me, they're going, hell, I go to the dang store and they see me and they're just going to try to sell me the most expensive thing. Let's just take the average Joe six-pack out there that lives in Omaha, Nebraska. He just got over the College World Series, which lasted 6 months, I think. But what do you tell someone that says, I want to start bass fishing? No, I've got, $300 I want to spend to get started. Point me in the right direction. Can you do that, Hunter?
I can. What you really need to do is time on the water and learn. I mean, we've got YouTube now that I didn't have when I was a kid, but YouTube, you can learn so much on different techniques, and you figure out what you figure out what technique you want to learn. You can find it on YouTube and then put your time in. If you don't have a boat or can't get a boat, go down the bank. If you can't get to the lake to go down the bank, sit in the driveway and flip into a bucket with a rod and reel, and just make your casting more accurate. I did that a lot when I was young. I'd sit out there and just flip into a 5-gallon bucket over and over and over and just get better at that. That way, when you get on the water, that part's not a question. You're not up in the trees, even though I'm still in the trees some. Yeah. But, that way you're not in the trees and you got to put that effort in. And I always say, I tell when I go speak to kids and stuff, I tell them, if you want to be the star of the football game, you have to be at practice, and you have to practice when no one else is. But if you're missing practice, you're going to sit on the bench and watch somebody else be the star. I mean, that's anything in life. And that you got to put your time in. I mean, I get asked a bunch, what can I do to get better fishing? And it's literally put more time in it to get better, to know those on the water scenarios when the fish don't bite or the weather's funky. You can go, I've done this before. I know how they bite. And Mark Rose made a real good point the other day. He said, people want to be a salesman and sell for sponsorships. At these higher levels, you can't survive without the sponsorship money. Yeah. And he said, but if you'll put your time in and prove yourself on the water, it's easier to make those sales than just going out and talking about it and selling and not being able to back it up when you go fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're talking about, I like the one going outside. And, I remember this training my first competitive lab for hunting for Mid-South Hunting Retriever Club, and I would take Bowden out at night and set up these line drills on the grass. I lived in Midtown Memphis. And so at night, it was incredible. I'd get out there, set up 200-yard force to the pile, walk back 20, 40, 60. All of a sudden, 200, you're doing it. You just figure it out, don't you? And I love how many times you've been we got a lake less than a mile, one of them from the house that we get to fish on. It's got some crappie. It's got a lot of bass and brim. It's also got, I'm not lying, I counted them, 5 bald eagles at one time in that little break. They're everywhere around here. They are competition for fishing, Hunter. But knowing how to cast accurately, I want you to talk a little about that, because that's hard to do. But if you do, repetition is the mother of all skill. I love it.
Right. It is. And, it basically comes down to not scaring a fish. When you can lay your bait somewhere that no one else can put it quietly, the fish will bite. When it sounds like a bowling ball hitting above their head, or you're in the tree instead of the water, then they're not going to bite, obviously. You'll still get bites, but you'll generate many more bites being able to lay your bait quietly somewhere that other people can't.
Yeah, again, I've talked to a lot of people about fishing over the years. I've never had anybody put it in terms like that and paint a picture like that. That makes absolute sense, because I know when my youngest one's out in Moose, Wyoming for the summer, out in the Tetons and Jackson and Montana and Yellowstone. And the first time they went out there, this is their 4th summer for my youngest one to live out there. He said, Dad, and he sent me pictures, the lakes and the streams are so clear. The fish are looking at you like going, are you kidding me? Do you think I'm stupid? They can see everything you're doing, and they don't have the success there. Now, the Spring River is a nice, clear river, but much more success there. On any kind of fishing, the fish are that aware of us. I didn't think about that.
They are, and like the Spring River, the current negates a lot of the clarity.
Okay.
It kind of makes it where they just like if you're trying to look in the water and there's current or there's wind, it's harder for you to see down. But yes, the fish are very aware. They hear the boats, they hear the trolling motors, they hear the bait hitting the water. But the good part is I read somewhere that their memory is like 5 seconds. So, they might hear it, then you can regroup and come back. But yeah, they are. They're very aware of what's going on. I've seen tournaments in the past to where a guy says, I have to drop my trolling motor hundreds of yards away and idle up because they know the sound of the trolling motor and they won't eat if the trolling motor is dropped around them, high pressured fish. And you can definitely tell. I mean, you can take a lake or a pond that's private that never gets fished, and it's not that it's that much better of a fishery, it's that it doesn't have that pressure that the fish on the public places are accustomed to.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's putting a lot of stuff. You just don't. I think we don't think about fish being their brain's about the size of a number 2 shot in a 12 gauge 3.5 shot, but they've got a brain. I mean, but here's something interesting from a listener. I once bass fished at Ray Scott's house east of Montgomery with a moat around it, and they would say, "Go catch your dinner, boys and girls." It's just
that's awesome.
Yeah, and but it's also talking about going for yellow bass in Toledo Bend, Texas. We lived in Austin, this guy, for a long time. What around the country, and one thing, yes or no, trust but verify. So I'm going to ask you this. David Hager, one of my friends, is a fishing fanatic. I mean, he won a $600 tackle box full of gear at a Clays for Kids sporting shoot thing about 5 years ago. I thought he was going to be in tears. He was so excited because he never wins anything. But I got to ask you this. Are there really 20 million members of Bassmasters? And is bass fishing as popular in Japan as I hear it is? Because maybe the American influence there after World War II, something got them hooked.
There is a huge amount of people that are members of Bassmaster and that are involved in fishing when it comes to the tournament fishing aspect.
Yeah. That
shrinks very much so. And you realize how small a world it is in the tournament fishing. But yes, Bass has a huge membership base, and Japan is huge. I believe the world record is from Japan. There's always baits. There's several manufacturers in Japan for the fishing market, and there's always baits that are coming from there that we haven't seen that they've been using to catch fish, or people are paying to get them over here. It's JDM, Japanese Domestic Market, is what it is, and it's fishing related, and they have colors we don't have on the same baits here from the same companies, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to bring in Ben Troupe, one of our next guests of the hour number 2. Ben's background, just to tell you, he's as you'll say, a self-described old country boy from Swainsboro, Georgia. Played college football with Steve Spurrier and Ron Zook at Florida, and played in the NFL for 5 years. But at the heart of it, Ben, you're on with Hunter Baughman. He is a championship bass fisherman. Met him last week at one of our sponsors in Wynn, Red River Ford Toyota. And he is a national, I guess you'd probably go anywhere, bass fisherman competing. We're talking about fishing and the popularity of bass fishing and all. He just gave me some of the best advice I've ever heard. But you live in Savannah, but you are, as you say, a country boy. He's sitting in his dang driveway and throw into a 5-gallon bucket to practice casting accuracy. But Hunter, I'm telling you, people that like to fish and hunt are the people you want to hang around with. Just like the best guys in your wedding, typically, if you played football, if you're a quarterback, they're probably your offensive lineman.
That's right.
Ben, say hello to Hunter Baughman up in Judsonia, Arkansas on the Little Red River. Let me just tell you, that's as close to paradise as you can get.
Absolutely. How are you being?
And I got to say too, when it comes to fishermen and golfers are the same. They're always looking for a reason to get out there on that way. Any reason. If they got a 2-hour window, then look, man, we can get there and get back. No good, but you always want to go with an experienced fisherman, because one thing about it, they know the spots. Like everybody be like, where you going, man? I ain't worried about. They don't know what they're doing. My granddaddy was a spot guy. My granddaddy, he ain't never get into the Bass Pro Fishing or Academy Sports and all these nice reels. My granddaddy would listen, give me that pole. Listen, man, I'm gonna give me some brim. I'll be right back. My grandma said, I want to eat fish tonight. He gone all day. We already know, but bass fishing is huge, man. I think the thing about it is, you know, a lot of these guys, man, they don't be telling the truth. I said, listen, some of y'all guys, y'all done stock some of these rivers, but some of y'all are cheating. I know some of y'all guys are good. I get it. But y'all Brett Favres of the world and the stock these, I said, what do you mean I ain't never been here before? But I know where they biting at. You're a liar. Yeah. You have been here before. And you do know where I don't mind it. Mind you, I do not mind it. You know, I'm a Southern boy, man. So, you know, I want, you know, bass is one thing. I want them catfish though, man. I mean, I don't want to pull them out the water. My hands might be a little ripped up trying to get them out that water. Yeah. Anybody that don't like the fish, man, you know, that's like a person that don't eat watermelon, man. You got to question their motives, man. I don't really be around people like that, man. I just know that when it comes to me and fishing, it'll take up my whole day. If I get to doing it, you'll be like, man, you're going to be on sidelines, man. If I could do it out here, if I can get some Wi-Fi out here on this water, I'll do it, man. I'll do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with Ben. It's like people that don't like horses. I mean, if you don't like horses, there's something inherently wrong with you. Even New York City, the concrete edifice is just, but there's horses, they're carriage-drawn horses, but I had a chance to live up there, Hunter, right out of college and work for NBC Sports for 6 months, and I turned it down because I said, Dad, there's no pickup trucks, there's no horses, and there's no gun racks in the pickup trucks. I just feel safe what we grow up with. But you think about fishing, Hunter. Andy Griffith's show, it starts off every single episode. And, you know, and you got to be just licking your chops. Your kids are 2 years and 7 months old, but it won't be long because I remember mine, man, I used to have to tiptoe out the door, man, like I was on a secret double spy Mission Impossible mission to get out without waking them up. And then, man, when they're old enough to go, there's nothing better than spending time in the field, outdoors with your kids and your family. I mean, you cannot beat that experience. I want you to tell us, and again, what it's like in these tournaments. You probably know these guys, the top people, but kind of talk about your routine during the week. We got a few more minutes with you. And again, appreciate so much you taking time to share with us and promise us that you'll come back on soon because I need to be taking notes here, but luckily this show's recorded.
We may have to do a live from the boat, right?
Damn right. We had Jackie Sherrill on a month ago, trout fishing in Cotter, Arkansas, and the coach's son caught like a 4.5-pound brown trout. First ever live fish caught on Sidelines. It was unbelievable. And his guide got a lot of good publicity out of it.
Yeah, I bet. No, a week for us, it's we start on a Sunday morning with practice.
Yeah.
And we have 3 full days of practice, and that's up to us to determine how full those days are. But I can tell you if you're quitting before dark and starting after daylight, then somebody's out working you. So, you know, it's daylight to dark practice, 3 days. And then with the NPFL, which is the league I fish with, the National Professional Fishing League, we have an off day on Wednesday. And on that off day, it's really neat because, number one, I get to sleep in a little bit. And then after that, we do community service. Like we'll go to schools and do different projects. We'll go all over animal shelters, different stuff. But the league will actually line us up with different community service projects and let us pick which one we want to do. And it's voluntary. We don't have to, but a large group of us do.
Yeah.
And then, that day, even though it's an off day, by the time you do that, maybe in the interview, rig all your tackle, get it ready. It's a full day. Like it's as long as the other days. And then the next morning starts tournament day. And it's a 3-day tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The full field fishes all 3 days with us. Cumulative weights, 5 fish per day per angler. And we just, man, we roll. We fish 3 full days, and whoever at the end is the highest 15 fish weight or, highest weight out of at least or 15 fish or less is $100,000 winner. It pays down 20 spots on 75 anglers we have this year.
So it's getting a lot like the PGA Tour. I mean, that's, without
the money.
Yeah, but you still, it adds up because there's a lot. I mean, you can fish year round. Ben, you got a different, and Ben, you know this, and there's like, we got one of the lakes near Parkland we get to fish on. It's 12 minutes from the house. The owner drained the lake last year and restocked it with those Florida bass or black bass. And I know that in Palatka, Florida, on the Johns River, that's right near, Ben, you went to University of Florida. I bet you that would be a great recruiting closing pitch to say we got unlimited bass fishing access on the Johns River in Palatka, Florida. But talk about the different kinds of what can people do? Who do they go to if they want to make their lake bass friendly?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to say because I'm on the coast of Georgia, and the fishermen on the coast of Georgia always get mad at me because I say they're not real fishermen. You fish in the ocean, man. Like anytime I can take my reel, I can stick it in the ground. Yeah, and I can sit back on my chair, wait on that. It's like they catching sharks and sea rays, all these type of things, right? To me, I think it's always good, to be around, a person like Hunter, because this is the thing. We small time over here. Like this is how you know. If you get the pulling and tugging, and when that thing come out that water, right? Yeah. See, this net thing is new to me. Putting the net under. I ain't never done that. I reach in that thing, and I. But the thing about it is what Hunter and them do. They really do it. Like, they got their shirts on. They out there really doing it. Only thing is, I can't watch some of these shows because I see a nice bass. I say, if you put that thing back in this water. It took me a long time to realize they on TV. They say, all right, girl, I'm gonna let you go. No. Like, cut the tape. Well, let me get something out of this bucket. I gotta take that home. That look good. I just think that I like the fact that you have professional leagues because everybody think some people look real good in these boats. They got some real nice equipment. They can't fish a lick. They look good now. They look good, but then they get to saying certain stuff. I'm like, man, do you know what you doing? Like, man, what do you use for bait? Oh, well, no. I mean, a fisherman is like a person in the military. You ask them where they serve, they're gonna tell you when they serve, they're gonna tell you where they serve. You ask a person that fish for real, I use this, I use that. This is what I'll throw this back. Like I said, I'm from Swainsboro, so we brim people, catfish people. This bass thing, that's kind of swanky. That's like nice restaurant. That's it come out. I'm like, oh, that's nice. They cut it. Y'all cut the little lines in it. Like, yeah.
Well, you know what? Along the lines of what he's just saying there, Hunter, it was funny. We have a couple of members of our club from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and they know how to cook. Good God! So they made couvion, fish stew, is what a friend of mine called it. But we took bass, a bunch of bass that we'd caught, and I don't eat a lot of bass, but I do now. The way they did it. Why don't more people obviously game management is everything. You put those big guys back so they can keep the herd strong, the fish strong. But when you fish, what are you looking for and what do you want to keep when you go out there? And just a couple more minutes, we'll let you go.
As far as the traveling and fishing, we don't obviously keep them there. And we don't want to roll in. There's 75 of us. 5 a day. We don't want to roll into a town and demolish a fishery. We don't want to be those people. So now
we thought about that.
In practice, we catch a walleye. We might have to keep a walleye and take it home with us, something like that. But for me, when I go catch fish to eat, it's either brim or crappie. Big bluegill or crappie is what I'm going to eat every time. And that's what I grew up eating. My brother-in-law and father-in-law, they're big flathead cat fishermen. They go over your way, actually, to the east, and they catch a bunch of flathead, and they love it. And I don't have a problem with eating flathead. That's just for my family growing up, it was always either crappie or brims what we brought home.
Hunter, didn't mean to cut you off, but another one. What is the largest bass you've ever caught? Competition or just fun and no fish stories? And it was that big. I can't go.
I couldn't break 10 pounds. It was 9 pounds, 15 ounces out of Kissimmee chain in Florida.
Wow. All right. And last question. You remember 10 years ago, the guy in Arkansas that caught that big bass and it had this big bulge in its stomach and he claimed it was the largest bass ever caught. And they said, well, it had swallowed another fish, and did they count that as part of the weight? But what really got him was, it's like, how do they always catch Al Capone and all the bad guys? Income tax evasion. He didn't have his fishing license, did he?
No, he didn't, man. It was the state record, and like the state record's from the 60s, I think, or 70s, and this guy had broken the state record, and but he didn't have his fishing license. He bought it after he caught it, and they realized that, and that went away.
That That was it. All right, Hunter, look, we got to get you back on here very soon. And before you go, let people know how they can follow you. And also, you do a lot of speaking. You got a powerful message. But I just, to me, you're just a highly competitive, damn good guy, husband, father, and a great ambassador for outdoor hunting and fishing. Again, why don't you get you one of those bumper stickers like Ted Nugent? Hunter Baughman says, take your kids fishing so you don't have to go fishing for your kids. And we'll promote it on this show, but let them know how they can follow you. And again, thanks so much for sharing your time with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all Hunter Baughman Fishing, HunterBaughman Fishing, or easier way, hunterfishes.com, and you can go to any of those places for my website.
I like that because even Jethro Bodine, me, can figure that one out. Hunterfishes.com. But look, so what's your next tournament? We
leave a week from today for Saginaw, Michigan. And it will be cooler
Michigan.
than where it is, what it is here. So I'm excited for it.
Yes, it's a cool with the wind chill, 170 in the shade and parking. Have a great weekend, Hunter. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good one.
You too. That is awesome, man. Having a guy on here that fishes professionally and competitively. Hear what he said. Bo Carter's on with us right now out in Carrollton, Texas. Now, Ben, that's Ken Capps thinks he lives in Oklahoma. That's north of Dallas. North Dallas 40 or North Dallas 35 or whatever it is. North Dallas 40. What a good family movie that was. But I digress. But we're talking about, it was really cool to hear from Hunter Baughman talking about him fishing, practice, and the amount of time. He goes, if you're not fishing till dark or you're getting up after daylight, somebody's out working you. Got to love this guy's message. It absolutely resonates and it rings true. And Bo, you grew up fishing, hunting. Ben, I mean, you know what? When people don't, in life, I really believe this. If you don't spend time outdoors, you're missing out. I mean, everybody's rushing and pushing and all like that, but you got to get out on the road. This guy, Hunter Baughman's awesome. We're going to be joined Tuesday by Mark Rose, another competitive bass fisherman from Wynne, Arkansas. Got to talk to both of these guys at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas last week. Man, that parking lot was packed. Talking about fishing. And, it was like you had Nick Saban or Kirby Smart there. People taking notes. And we were out there, had the Cajun food truck there. They had the bounce house. The over and under on how many people were going to faint. It was so hot in that parking lot. People were just blowing up, catching on fire. It was unbelievable. But appreciate so much what people that spend the time. We watch these fishing shows, Virgil Ward, Jimmy Houston, Bill Dance. We've all got our favorite. But, if you don't like hunting and fishing and horses, there's something seriously wrong with you. But Ben and Bo, y'all may agree or disagree. Look, let's do this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We missed a few breaks. And we're going to be right back. We're going to talk some college football. We're going to talk some NIL. We got a lot to cover, a long way to go and a short time to get there, but we're going to do our best right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with you and getting a lot of questions from people. I'm trying to get get to him. I'll try to get to him as I can throughout the show. About Hunter, what's your go-to bass lure that you always have ready to go that you can tell us about? He may have something, a proprietary secret that he has, but anyway, that is man. I'm ready to go fishing right now. All right, guys, got to set the table. I got into it a little bit with Dan Mathews of Southern Sports Today, executive producer of Chuck Oliver's show, also 680 The Fan, Chuck and Chernoff here in Atlanta. We're about a mile from the Battery here in Atlanta. And by the way, watching a Braves game with Tyler or Billy Roberts or Frank Duffy, my God, it's a dynasty. But Ben and Bo, interesting thing was brought up. Shoney, listener down in Valdosta, Georgia, Titletown, USA, I might add. But he said, talk about that separation from Liberty Media. That's a big deal because Alex Anthopoulos, and I compare him to Bobby Beathard of the Redskins, who did an incredible job with player management and development. But also, hey, we got this big box in this room. It makes all these funny noises and prints stuff out and sounds like R2-D2 from Star Wars. Do you want it? Gil Brandt said, yeah, we'll do something with it. Well, that's the computer that they used to build the Cowboys dynasty. But absolutely, Alex Anthopoulos and the Braves, guys, it's unbelievable. Is there no limit? I mean, are they recruiting and building like a college dynasty? Who wants to take a stab? Bo, you're a Baseball Writers of America. Ben's a Braves junkie. Every single day after he works out, he watches the Braves game and listens to Ben Ingram, the voice of the Braves. He does not miss.
Oh, yeah. And Ben, thanks for your lawyer. I'm a good friend of Ernie Johnson Jr., who did the and Ernie Sr., Milo Hamilton.
Yeah.
Before I forget to, Rob and Ben, I want to just quickly, I want to wish all the family of our good friend Johnny Cooks passed away yesterday after battling heart disease. And I think he was in Memphis trying to get a heart transplant, the way they're talking about the last 6 months. But he might have been the best. I
remember him well.
Player. Yeah, best defensive player in Mississippi State history. Just
he
worked for the Bulldog Club for about 25 or 30 years, really. Ben, you probably had some association with wonderful human being, just sort of, great family guy all the way too. But getting back to a happier topic, the Braves, they've got a guy named Bryce Elder, who's a rookie from Texas, who's like 7-1 and leads the majors with a 2.45 ERA. So they just keep Ben and Rob, they keep plugging these guys out of the draft pool there or whatever. So it's just they've got money to spend. They've got a great ballpark, and man, it's a winning combination.
Yeah. Ben, real quick before we get your answer on that, Hunter Baughman just responded to a question that was brought up by one of our listeners. What is your go-to bass lure that you always have ready to go? Hunter Baughman just replied, a finesse jig is my go-to bait. Extremely versatile. You can swim it, drag it, or hop it. Depending on color, it can resemble a crawfish, a brim, or a shad. Hunter Baughman, man. HunterFishes.com. Damn it, I'm getting fired up. We're going to start bringing on more because wouldn't y'all agree? People that love college football, basketball, baseball, they also love God. They love their country. They love their family. They love the land they're from, hunting and fishing. It's a natural marriage like Braves country. Does anybody do it better than Braves country? But Ben just said they do what they got to do. Ben, I love it, man. Ben, you know who Ben reminds me a lot of in a crazy sort of way? Jerry Clower. You know who Jerry Clower is? One of the funniest human beings ever because you're so genuine and sincere, but you're smart, you're crazy smart, and you put things in the vernacular that a lot of people do not understand. You've helped explain football, what goes on the field so well. People always go, man, I love Ben being on because he's so self-deprecating and so humble. I would have loved to have been a teammate of his. And like, who was it that was on here recently? A writer said, we didn't know Ben. He was just so quiet. And all of a sudden he steps up and he's an All-American. But he waited and he worked his ass off. And when his time came and the bell rung, he came out. He was ready for the challenge. Hey, when the bombs go off and the fireworks start, which way are you going to run? Ben runs to the fight. Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal, on here with us right now. Knock it out of the park about the Braves. I'm wound up. I'm on my second cup of coffee.
I think the thing about the Braves and people that don't get enough credit for, Alex Anthopoulos, people forget what he inherited in that front office. I mean, there's people walking by with FBI on their shirt. when he, because it was craziness in that office when he took over. And obviously, whenever you hire from within, when everybody went with Snit, people was like, oh, he's been with the organization too long. But they knew something that Snit knew how to say, look, man, he always say, look, they gave me a Ferrari and they know I drive slow. They know I'm not going to wreck it. Yeah, I look crazy stepping out of this thing, but make no mistake about it. They say this all the time. The easiest way to build a culture is when you got great talent. You can't get much better than Ronald Acuna. You don't know if there is. I think you got 42 stolen bases right now. You got Spencer Strider, and you got Matt Olson. Matt Olson no longer living in the shadow of of my guy Freddie Freeman. And you talk about that infield. You talk about what they bring is this. When the Braves won during that shortened season, everybody talking about can they go out there and get it done. It's always going to be about can you beat the Dodgers. I don't care who you are in the NL. Yep. If you can't beat them boys from LA, it don't matter. And I think the thing about it is you got to have a blend of veterans and young talent. If you see Ozzie, if you see Acuna, those boys in that dugout, they're having fun. Look, you got 100. Yeah. That's a lot of baseball to not have fun. But I think the thing that the Braves have done is they've done it their way. The hardest decision Anthopoulos has had to make is to watch Freddie Freeman go to LA. That's been the hardest thing he's had, which was rough. I thought he was going to be a lifer, which is hard to do these days. But the Braves are relevant, and they're going to be relevant for a long time because they did something they never done with Acuna when they gave him that $100 million deal, when they still had him under his rookie deal, gave Ozzie Albies that new deal. And I love it. I mean, I still have to listen. We all have to come. There are 29 teams that have to come together to kill the evil empire known as the Yankees. That's what we're here to do. They're not doing it. So if as long as the Yankees not winning it, I mean, I wish it's my Braves. That's what we do. 29 teams come together. Don't let the Yankees in there and say we got to keep them from winning the World Series. They are the evil. They are the Duke basketball of baseball. We don't have to keep them away. But being from Georgia, there are certain things that are always going to be. Yes, I went to Florida. My granddaddy taught me right. He said, boy, you root for the Braves. You root for the Falcons. You root for the Hawks. But he said, but you always root for the Braves. They're a real franchise. He says, because they're outside. It's in the heat. Truist Park is right there off of Kyle Parkway, right there, 285 connected. I don't know how they managed to put that stadium right there where they put it, but I'm just happy that the Braves are one of those iconic teams now that are. It's hard to be relevant in baseball because most of these owners, let's face it, they ain't trying to spend no money. They like having a club. They ain't trying to spend no money. But I will say, my Braves, they find a way to get it done. They got these pesky boys from Tampa Bay that ain't even in Tampa Bay coming up this weekend. Yeah, St. Pete. They the St. Pete Rays. They're not even Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah. But listen, the Braves are my through and through. If I'm not wearing this, you're going to see me wearing a Braves hat. That's the only kind of ball cap I wear. But like I said, anybody that got something, listen, all these fake fans not talking about, oh, I'm a Rays fan. No, the Braves were the only thing in town for a long time, for hundreds of miles. All these people turned on us and went to other places. No, man, we Braves fans, we Braves fans. Listen, whether it's Jacksonville or from Orlando up, we Braves fan. I don't know, them Tampa people, they fake. They ain't even got a stadium. Yeah. They ain't even got a stadium in Tampa. So we're going to keep on rolling. But I will say, Acuna, if you could be the first ever 50-40, 50 homers, he can do it. I don't know if he's going to do it, but I talked to Sid Bream. I talked to Chipper. Every last former Brave you ever speak to, you mention Acuna, that say, oh, I ain't never seen nothing like it. He can do anything he wants to do out there on that field. And while baseball is the only sport that arguably your best two players don't even make the playoffs. Ohtani and Trout, it's the only sport you've ever seen it. Now, if Ronald Acuna is an alien, Ohtani is a mutant. I don't know where Ohtani came from, but I know his contract is coming up. The Braves ain't gonna get him, but I know his contract is coming up. Hey man, we can find a way to, he gonna have to take a farmer's discount for him to come to land. We don't pay that type of money. He's gonna get what, 600? If he got $1 billion, I still think that's low ball on Ohtani at this point. But I'm just happy that my Braves are relevant, man. They found a way to get it done, man, and I'm just happy old Mike Soroka is back. Yeah.
2.5 years he was out, and he's back on the mound. And Ronald Acuna is from Venezuela. Isn't that north of Valdosta on 75?
Listen. We claim
yeah.
we lie about Ronald Acuna Jr. every day. I said, listen, he's the only Spanish-speaking Georgia man. He's from Georgia.
Yeah.
He's from the backwoods or the mountain.
Yeah, he is. I mean, and you watch it, and that's again, Bo, talk about this. Alex Anthopoulos. I don't know him, but I follow the Braves more and more. And the Cardinals are our western flank, and the Braves on the east. And in between, it's a big fight. But Alex Anthopoulos and the Braves guys, they've locked up Ronald Acuna for 10 years, $100 million. Now, he could go and maybe they'll renegotiate that and throw some more money at him.
He won't play that. Yeah, he'll get another one for that.
Yeah.
He'll get another one.
And Bo, what are the limits on contracts?
I'm like Ben. Hey, Ohtani might make $1 million on the next guy. And also, Ben knows this. John Sherholtz kind of laid the groundwork, back in the Bobby Cox days. And he really, I think he's still like special consulting. He's like 85 years old, but he's back there in the back room somewhere, Ben, pontificating or whatever, too. But fun team to watch. And Ben will also be glad the Orioles beat the Yankees 15-1 last night. So the evil in New York, the evil empire is having a tough time. But it's wonderful to watch. And I'm like you, Rob and Ben. I grew up Cardinals fan, but still, my mom's family was from St. Louis area. But the Carter Oil Company in Alabama sponsors the Braves broadcast.
Yeah.
So they're all into it.
Look, I would love it. I mean, listen, we'll talk Cardinals too. Dudley Dawson, our good friend Hogville.net, was on yesterday. He's over in Springdale in the northwest corner from Newport, Arkansas. And he's so frustrated about what's going on with the Cardinals. But Ben, you've played professional sports and you've seen the administrative back scene as well, Bo. And why are some organizations so good? Again, Bobby Cox, Billy Roberts always says Bobby Cox coined the phrase the Braves way. And John Sherholtz, I mean, what they did. And, Butch Thompson says that Brian Snedeker, they call him Snitty, will invite the Auburn team. He says, look, when y'all want to come up and check things out, you're always welcome. And Coach Thompson says, we'll go once, maybe twice a year. But he reaches out to all these colleges. I mean, what he's doing is he's recruiting. And Billy Roberts, who's on here a lot with us over in Brookhaven, not Atlanta, but he's a good old LaGrange, Troupe County boy. He always says, the Braves build it like college. Think about Michael Harris Jr. from South Atlanta. He was the number 9 hitter last year, and he's National League Rookie of the Year. This is just like what they're doing at Georgia and Alabama in football without some speeding violations. I mean, it's incredible.
It's culture, and the thing about culture is culture. The greatest thing about what you talk about with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Braves is they adapt. They're not when they say the Braves way, they saying, look, we're gonna go through the farm system, but if we're not willing to adapt, we're not gonna win. Anybody that says that, man, we got it one type of way, man, it's gonna be this way or nothing. No, I remember when Alabama only ran the football till Tua came to town. Now they throw what worked then doesn't work now. So somebody told Nick Saban, look, we got this kid from Hawaii, got a funny last name, he could throw this thing. All right, and they believed in it, right? I think when it comes to the Braves the Braves have such a long winning tradition it wasn't the Braves, who's gonna replace Bobby? Like, who's going to replace Bobby? Like that, Bobby Cox, to me, listen, Bobby Cox is the Rasheed Wallace of managers. I'm getting thrown out. I'm getting thrown. We always say, people used to bet on what inning. If there's a strike, and I know it's a strike, and they go ball, and I think that we've been spoiled as Braves fans because listen, I will argue the greatest, dugout you ever saw at one. I don't care what nobody says with Glavine and Smokes. But then you talk about the David Justice and the Otis, and it goes on and on. But we only won one World Series without dominating in the 90s. And you talk about now, every team needs an out-of-this-world superstar. And you got that in Acuna. But you got to have role players that don't mind their role, like Ozzie Albies and company, But I think that with the Braves their culture is nice. Alex Anthopoulos came in and said, look, man, people already expect me to fail. And they gave me Snit. Right, they gave me a guy that can say this is the way the Braves do it, but we gonna trust you. I think it works because Snit does not bother at whoever Alex picks. Snit does not bother him about. He ain't got nothing to do with personnel decisions, but it's been pretty good. I mean, at one point we had Joey Bats, man. He was there for a second, but we had Joey Bats with the Braves. I think that when it comes to the Braves, is the hardest thing to build is a culture. The best companies, the best teams, the best organization, they got the best coaches, and that's what it comes down to. That's the hardest thing to do, because the buy-in is what the culture is, and then once you get the buy-in from the front office, because I love the Braves, but that pocketbook is tight. They don't. Our breaking news, our new deals look like old deal. They don't look like something going crazy, but they do what works for the long haul. And when you got a bunch of 20-somethings on your team, and they have the contract for 5 and 6, that's when you get a chance to be really, really good. Because while you love the Bryce Harpers and the Trouts of the world, you giving one guy $500 or $600 million, you can't build a team around it, because most guys gonna have to take. No, listen, there ain't a player walking want to take. Right. You think Mrs. Troupe care about Mrs. Trout? No, she want all the money we can get. Love you, Miss Trout. Yeah. We're gonna take a discount so we can play with the Anaheim. Anaheim, that's in LA. That's just another name for LA. So I just think building the right culture comes down to one thing: are you winning? Yeah, that's the culture. Because you can have the best coaching players. If you losing, everybody gonna be gone. If you winning, people can go with it.
Yeah, and Ben just hit it, Bo. Mike Trout getting $500 gazillion by himself on a crappy team. I mean, these guys, you want to win, or you just want to make a lot of money? And Bo, I'm going to make you the general manager right now, the grand poobah. You've got the power for the Anaheim Angels. What would you do? What would be the first thing you would do? Trade Mike Trout and bring in a bunch of guys? What would you do?
Probably trade Mike Trout, get money for Ohtani. And, Trout's out for the season. He broke his hand or broke a couple of fingers or something. So he's gone till 2024. So that they better go out and find some farm guys that can come up, Ben. You know how that goes. But no, I mean, I think at this point, from their payroll and everything else, like the Mets, $340 million payroll. And I think they're like 6 or 7 games under fire. Coach my old Mississippi State friend, Buck Showalter, but he's you've got to produce. Ben hit the nail on the head. You've got to get the players. You got to produce, and then keep that fan base. If you're drawing 15, 20,000 people a game, you can't pay the players. You can't make it, and that's the Braves' key to success. Great teams, great crowds, competitive teams without the superstars.
All right, next question, Bo. And I was told by someone that I trust that the College World Series national championship there at the end, LSU in Florida, wow, what a great 180 from Sunday to Monday, but it was opposite teams. That other than the America versus Japan All-Star game, it's the highest rated baseball game watched, professional or college, period. Now, Butch Thompson said 48% of the players on opening day Major League Baseball rosters played at 4-year colleges. We're starting to see the elimination of some of the farm systems out there, the rise of popularity in college baseball. You were at Mississippi State when the left field lounge was what it was, when people were pulling up. Ben wasn't even born. He doesn't even remember these days. Station wagons with, you had to roll the windows up, does that thing have AM, FM stereo, heating and air, but that grassroots populist effort, it all started in Starkville. Just like the Deep South's oldest rivalry started February 20th, 1892, Piedmont Park, Atlanta, Georgia. Auburn 10, Georgia nothing. 5,000 people attended. Georgia's mascot was a goat, Ben. He had a black and red cape on him. And as Vince Dooley said, well, after the game, the Georgia fans were so upset that, well, they had the first barbecue tailgate in Southeastern Conference. They cooked the goat.
That's true.
My dad was there. No, seriously, they did. I mean, and at Auburn 10, Georgia nothing. But I'm just thinking about this, guys. College baseball is booming, and Ben, I'm gonna throw this at you. People wonder about Florida. Florida is being a Florida Gator. Their athletic program, 260 something. I've lost count. Franz Beard, if you're listening, give me the latest update, because 6 weeks ago he sent me this list, and it's 260 SEC championships for Florida men and women over the years. It's over 100 more than the second place team. I think with Florida, it's almost like being born into a family with billions of dollars. You're just kind of bored. I mean, and there's so much. They're good in pretty much everything in Gainesville, Ben. But Ben, you were a badass baseball player in high school. You moved from Swainsboro. What's the population of Swainsboro?
Now, I mean, Emmanuel Swainsboro might be 8,000 now. I think my
that's pretty big. That's as big as
compared to what I was saying. Yeah. They're having plenty of babies down there these days.
Well, that's like Wynn, Arkansas. But how big is Augusta?
Augusta might be. I think Augusta or Columbus might be the second or third largest cities in the state. So Augusta,
Columbus is the second. I know because it's doubled.
Augusta will be third. Savannah will be fourth. So Augusta's big.
Augusta's bigger than Savannah?
Yes, Augusta's bigger than Savannah. Yes.
Wow, man! Every time Ben's on, Bo, you know what I think of? Sitting out there on deck, just looking out over the water, eating a big bowl of Low Country stew with an ice cold Hamm's beer. It don't get much better than that. Watching the Braves or the Cardinals, whoever your team is, but I want the Cardinals to get better so we can start having a modern day version of Crossfire, the old TV show. We'd have Ben or Bo, Braves fan over here on the other side, a Cardinals fan, and I'd be in the middle. All right, ready, go. Nobody can understand anything anybody says. They're just screaming at each other. But that, you know what? Rivalries are healthy. They're good things. And I'm watching the popularity of baseball. As soon as this season was over, the next day, John Cohen, you think it's any accident, Butch coached with him for 6 years over in Mississippi State. $32 million going right into the football. I mean, baseball stadium. The architectural renderings are incredible. And then expansion. It's everywhere, guys. Ole Miss is adding on again to Swayze Stadium. They've spent now in the last 15 or 20 years, $128 million on their baseball stadium. And then, Ben, you look at Florida, they're just so damn good. They're kind of like old money, guy that's worth $500 million driving an old station wagon. Sam Walton had all the money in the world. He drove that old red Ford pickup truck that had holes in the seat because I think it made him feel kind of normal. I mean, but Ben, did you ever go to any Gator baseball games when you were there with your teammates? I did. Studying all the time or working out or whatever. Did you have any free time?
No, I did, because what happens is we run into each other in class or trying to work out.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing about baseball players is they're not. You think of a baseball player, you think he built like no, they ain't built like baseball players. They not 6'4", 6'5", 220. These guys be nice sized dudes, and I think what happens is no one wants to, when it comes to a college like Florida, Georgia, no one wants to say that you're not helping the F, you're not helping the G. Hey man, I play baseball. What you guys doing? Because Kevin O'Sullivan, look, I get it. You got, Billy Napier. He rules because he's the, head football coach. But Kevin O'Sullivan, he's one of the most prestigious baseball coaches in baseball. You can walk in any room and people know who he's seen it all, done it all. Now, Florida doesn't have the tradition of LSU baseball. Nobody does. Nobody has that. But nobody says, you lost the preseason #1 team in the country in LSU. Now, it's a tale of two games from game 1 to game 2. But I think the thing about Coach O'Sullivan is you expect to go to regionals and super regionals. You expect to go to Omaha. And that's what I think the thing about baseball has done is, like, look, man, you scoring the most runs ever in a College World Series, and you lost to that team the next day. You got the premier program in LSU. Because I got to say this. I know that when it comes to football, it's SEC. When it comes to baseball, it might be the SEC too, because the thing about it is you talking about some of the best players in the country. Look at that transfer portal when it comes to baseball. Watch how many of those guys transfer to SEC schools. They're going because they're looking at, man, you get so with the SEC network and the publicity and the advertising, the marketing, the exposure, how can you lose? Listen, we got our own Otani. His name is Cags. He goes to Florida. You've seen him before, right? He just broke the record for most home runs.
Yeah.
In a baseball season, I think 33, 34.
Yeah, ridiculous.
For me, baseball is what it is before Texas and Oklahoma come over. I'm telling you, the SEC is setting itself up to say, look, if we want to have our standalone, now, I'm not saying they're going to do this. We want to have our own if we had our own standalone league, people still going to watch. You getting some of the, and Florida's and the SEC is about to inherit the vaunted Oklahoma softball program. Who going to beat them? So I just think that SEC baseball, every time I talk to those guys on my podcast, they always go, dude, I didn't know it was like this. Because yes, you got your in-state rivals.
Yeah.
When they say, hey, man, who you like playing in the SEC, they'll go pick one.
Yeah.
Pick Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, pick one. And I just think that for me, it's going in the right direction because when everybody's watching, you might not watch the regular season. Everybody watched the World Series. And you got Greg Sankey is the most powerful man in college athletics, being the commissioner of the SEC, because he won out. Listen, Florida won outdoor and track. Florida won golf. Georgia won back-to-back in football. LSU just won baseball. I mean, he can't. Florida won. He can't lose when you talk about it's going to be SEC. I asked him before, man, who's your favorite team in the SEC? He said, I got 14 of them. Yeah. And that's the best answer I ever got. And that's before the big two come over from the Big 12.
Well, basically what you're saying is we're bringing in Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC and just that sucking sound you hear sound like Ross Perot. That giant sucking sound you sound is NAFTA, you know. And but anyway, it's the sound of Oklahoma softball coming into the SEC. I mean, they've won like 1,000 straight games. It's ridiculous. They have people there and they never leave. It's ridiculous. That Page girl, that pitcher, I mean, she would just bring you to tears. Her ERA was like a .27. But let me throw this at you. We're bringing sand to the beach with Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC. This was Texas's 63rd NCAA baseball regional appearance this year. 63rd. And had it not been for those people that are cheaper than Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob SquarePants that wouldn't buy lights out there at the Stanford Stadium, they would have been in Omaha. Mm-hmm. Who knows what would have happened? But I'm just telling you, Dave Cody covered Texas for a long time. Augie Garrido. I mean, again, Texas, you've got so much. It's like Florida. But again, Ben knows this, and you know this, Bo, and I know it from going to Gainesville and Alachua County. That their country, they're Southern. Now there's a lot of transplanted Yankees down there in Miami and whatnot. Sound like Carl from Sling Blade. Whatnot and such. I'd kind of want something other good to eat in there. But anyway, they are country as it gets when you get over to Gainesville. I mean,
Florida, baby. You know about that. North Florida ain't nothing but South Georgia. They know what it is.
Yeah, but let me say this. Here's a trivia question. See if either one of y'all can get this. He was a walk-on quarterback in 1984 who played for the Florida Gators from a small town in the Florida Panhandle between Quincy and Jacksonville. His nickname was the Throwin' Mayoan. I still have nightmares about him coming in on one good leg and beating my Auburn Tigers in 1986 with a fade pass in the corner of the end zone to wide receiver Ricky Nattiel. Still have nightmares about it. You might know who this guy is? Kerwin Bell, Throwin' Mayoan.
Listen, I knew you were going to say Kerwin Bell, who ended up being the head coach of Valdosta State.
That's right.
Down there.
I'm not going to get one past Ben on Georgia. Anything.
Listen, I will say this all the time. When it comes to like going to a place like Florida or Texas, when you go there, you don't really understand because you're what everybody's there coming to see. And then you go to the NFL, people say, what team did you play for? I played for the Titans and the Bucks and the Raiders. Where you went to college? I went to Florida. They said, you went to Florida? It's like they perk up because it's synonymous with Spurrier and Debo and Danny Warfel and Billy Donovan. I mean, my daughter plays soccer, and she's in this big-time soccer league in Florida, and I look up at who's sponsoring her league, Abby Wambach. I look at my daughter and say, you know who that is? She goes, I don't know who. I said, that's the GOAT. That's it's almost like when I played with the Titans with Vince Young and Bo Scaife and Michael Griffin that went to Florida in the Mount Hall, they was telling me about Texas, this is Texas that I told them. I said, let me tell y'all something. Y'all biggest rivalry in the SEC is Arkansas. Y'all better never come. If that's your biggest rival, you better not come to the SEC. Like, man, y'all don't want to deal with us. I said, listen, bro, listen. Y'all couldn't deal with Dan McFadden and Matt Jones and them. You don't want to deal with this over here. I said, now look, when it come to money, y'all sleep on money. Y'all Mr. Scrooge out there. Y'all got plenty of money. I get that part. I say, but when it comes to tradition, I mean, when it comes to brands, you get to be a part of this branding machine over here. I say because the biggest brand in the state of Texas is Dallas. But
Yeah.
but as far as like college, of course it's UT. And I said, listen, we got y'all little brothers. We got Texas A&M and Mizzou. We always wanted y'all. We got them first. That way they won't, I say, but we gonna renew that rivalry of Texas A&M. But I told Vince Young, I said, BY, listen, you a legend. But if you had to do that in the SEC, I don't know if you're going undefeated. I'm just saying, I saw an undefeated team in the SEC not even go to the national championship. I'm like, who? I said, them Auburn boys. That's what we do. We go undefeated and still not
cry. Hey, let me tell you what. He's right. But the competition, as Coach Pratt used to tell us in math survey or math scurvy, we called it, competition is the spice of life. All right, I'm going to throw some numbers at you, guys. Jerry Kirby, our NFL junkie guru, and I'm going to get him on here with you, Ben. He wants to be on. He watches this show. He's watching it right now up in Clarksville, Tennessee. Jerry watches it's my wife Audrey's brother's son-in-law. And so he's married to Audrey's niece. He watches every NFL game, and the ones he doesn't get to see live during the season, he watches in the offseason and takes the full 22 screen with the controls. He studies this stuff scientifically. He's a genius. He put this stat out the other day. You ready for this? This is something that Ben and Bo and the people watching and listening to Sidelines, and thank you, as Gomer Pyle would say. Average length of Patrick Mahomes' touchdown passes. Ben, tell me what's going on here in Bo. In 2019, average length of Patrick Mahomes' touchdown passes was 17.3 air yards. In 2020, 13.0 air yards. 2021, 8.5 air yards. 2022, 4.5 air yards. Last year, Patrick Mahomes, for those of you that don't know, that live in a cave or live in New York City, he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's their quarterback, played at Texas Tech. Last year, Mahomes threw 41 touchdowns. Only one, uno, traveled more than 19 yards. Slim Pickens said, what in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here, boys? Ben, Bo, what is going on with that?
It's about health. I mean, what they telling Patrick Mahomes is your job is to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. The playmaker's job is to make it easy for you to do it. The quicker you can do it, the longer. I'm looking. Football is about, are you there in week 17? That means you played every game, right? And the thing about Patrick Mahomes is, look, nobody ever put him on the front cover of Men Health. He ain't ripped up, right? And nothing against him. Love Patrick Mahomes, right? All I'm saying is they're saying, look, stats and box scores tell half the story, right? We're looking at what is going to make you more efficient. You know what? You notice why that number went down? Who he no longer have? He no longer has Tyreek Hill. That was his downfield threat, right?
Yes, that's right.
We're going to get the ball out quick. He had Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy's job is to look at his tendencies. He goes, look, the longer a pass is, the longer the drop step. If it's 18 yards, that's a 5-step drop. If it's 5, that's a 3. That means that offensive line, they going through their progressions really quickly. And where did Travis Kelce make his money? In between the numbers, baby. I make my money in between the numbers. I just happen to be the best tight end in football. Nothing against you, George Kittle or Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, love you, Mark Andrews. And they're saying this. What does it matter how far it goes? Listen, what you think it happened quicker? You throw a 17 or throw it 5 and he runs 17. Throw it to him at 5, let him make plays. And they're telling Pat Mahomes, the quicker you combine to what we do, that's how you play for 20 years. You don't play for 20 years sitting back there in the pocket looking around, right?
Yeah.
You play for 20 years when you get the ball out your hand. And I think for Pat Mahomes, he's saying, look, man, at the end of the day, I got the most important stat. That's the W. I got the W. It don't matter how you get it. And if 15 is getting off the ground, that's not a good place to be if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. So I like the stat sheet. And for every quarterback listening, stop thinking that it's about the deep ball. It's about the completion and health. That's it. Don't make turnovers. Keep us out of harm's way. Know the down and distance. Know where the blitz is coming from. Get the ball out your hand. Listen, the best play is no play. If it's no play, throw it away. Get to the sideline. If we had 30 series, as long as we have more good plays and bad plays, and we win time of possession, you win the game. Football, and Pat Mahomes, you thought he was scary before. Now he's getting the ball out quick. What are you gonna do? You got to can throw it 80, but he'd rather throw it 8. That's football. Is, hey coach, I got a big arm. Yeah, but it ain't a lot of 30, 40 40-yard passes going on. No. It's like Greg McElroy when Greg McElroy had an 80-yard touchdown pass, he threw it 10 yards to Julio. That's what it was. I threw it 10, Julio took it 7. That's an 80-yard touchdown. I'd rather do that because they're trying to show that the best skill in the world is being coachable. That's the best skill you got. If I can take what the coach is telling me and I trust those guys around me, we're gonna win. We're gonna win a lot of games because if you only get off the last time you won off ability, no one knew you. Yeah, that's the last time once people started knowing you. Look, man, football is about sustainability, and that's the hardest ability there is. A lot of these guys be thinking, I'm on my knees throwing it 80 yards, and if you on your knees, that's you getting sacked, and you probably ain't coming back into the game. I played with Steve McNair, who was a Warrior. I think that's scary for the competition though, because they go into the quick. It sounds like the quick game, but no, it ain't the quick game. I got Travis. I got McKinnon, and the thing about McKinnon, who came from Georgia Southern, I played with his brother Lester Norwood at Florida. That same McKinnon took a picture with him my junior year, his brother senior year. Little Jared is sitting there. He comes back to Florida and kills us. Florida didn't recruit him, so he comes back and kills the team he grew up wanting to go to. And the greatest play in the Super Bowl last year was Jared McKinnon. When he can run in for the touchdown, he kneels at the 1. That's football, people. That's saying, I want to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, or do you want to win the Super Bowl? That's I think that when it comes to what Kansas City is doing, they playing chess, man. And they just happen to have the best checker players out there because every player on that team will protect 15. They're going to protect him. They don't care. Travis Kelce wants, I think he got a shot to be the GOAT. I think he is the GOAT. Even that, I love you. Only because, listen, the reason why I say it's Travis Kelce, you know how hard it is to get 1,000 yards in a season? He's done it 7 years.
As a tight end?
He's
almost impossible.
Yeah. He's done it 7 years in a row. And the thing about it is he's only getting better because the only way you play in football, whether it's college, pro, rec, trust. He has the trust of his quarterback. He has the trust of his offensive coordinator. He got the trust of Andy Reid. He got the trust of his teammates. So when people say, why don't my son or daughter play? The coaches and players don't trust them. They got ability. Right? And I think the thing about Kansas City is if somebody said his longest touchdown pass was 17 yards, that's a lie. No, you see how far that receiver is running. Get the ball in his hands. I told you. Coach said, hey, Ben, I'd rather throw it to you at 10 and watch you run 40. Why? Because I want to show your ability. But how long would it take you to run 40 yards and the ball in the air? You got to track the ball for 40 yards. I'd rather you track it for 10, catch it, intermediate route, by the way, get down the field. Compared to, because the longer that ball's in the air, that means the quarterback probably didn't see it because a 300-pounder barreled down on it. So that might be his last touchdown pass of the year, right? Great touchdown. Mahomes is on the field. I'm just telling y'all. Yeah. Football is one of the best sports there is because people be thinking it's about this nonsensical stuff that don't matter. Is your quarterback starting every game? What Tom Brady did better than anybody was he got hurt for 1 season. That's it. In a 20-something year career, I missed 1 season with a torn ACL. Then I started eating celery smoothies or whatever he does now. That nasty, but it works. So I think that when everybody talking, I want to be Pat Mahomes. I said, okay, you want to go to the quick passing game? Yeah, but you got to have a Travis Kelce, you got to have a Andy Reid, and you got to have 52 guys that's willing to protect the most important guys. And that's the QB. Most guys, they so arrogant and ego-driven, they care about having a good game in the box score but lose the game. I'd rather have one catch and win the game. That's football because my coaches had to teach me that he says, listen, man, why don't you go be a golfer? Why don't you go play tennis? Why? Because those are individual sports. Oh, you play a team sport. So what happens is they said the worst thing can happen to a player, they start getting interviewed after the game. Because now they start thinking, hey, man, Ben, tell us about this. And all I say is this. If I do my job, we have a better shot of winning. Don't ask me about my teammates, man. I'm not good enough a player to point the finger at them. I didn't play good enough as a teammate. So,
Yeah. No, you're blowing my mind with those stats. But you heard him what he just said, Bo. He's right. It's about preservation of your body. Interesting stat from Jerry Kirby and Ben. Jerry's up in Clarksville, Tennessee. I guarantee
Austin
he's
Peay,
studying.
shout out to Austin
Yep.
Peay.
Austin Peay, the governor.
That's right. Yes, and the governors. But he said Jim Harbaugh has more career rushing stats than Vincent Bo Jackson. And I said, are you serious? And he said, yes, it is true. So it is said, so it shall be, according to Jerry Kirby. But he's ready to get on here, talk some NFL with Ben. And Bo, I got to ask you what Ben just said. You talk about interviewing a guy after the game, and you think about, he's right. I mean, the guys, as SID, you were always down on that field at the end of the game trying to herd everybody together and the craziness. And I think about what Ben just said. Everybody out there protect Patrick Mahomes. It's not about how many quarterback hurries, how many times you get hit. It's how clean your uniform is after the game. That's when you take your offensive lineman out to the best steakhouse in town.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben's included in that group because the tight end is an offensive lineman.
I'm going, even if I don't get the invite, I'm like, what the hell y'all doing? I'm going either way. I'm like, hey man, what y'all doing? No, Ben, this is for, I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. I don't already order mine. So
well, hey Ben, you remember the movie, the original movie, The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds, when he pissed off his offensive lineman and they knew he was throwing the game. What do you call that? Ghost blocking. He was willing.
Anybody that's ever played with me knows this. I said, let me tell y'all something, man. Listen, I said, my coach told me real football players want to do what doesn't get glamour, what doesn't get like coming any type of glamour. You want to do the dirty work. He said, Troupe, if you care about the running backs, right? Yeah, they should want to run to your side. We were playing Arkansas my senior year, coming out with the ball after halftime in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I tell Theatric Faison, yo, C4, listen, bro, I'm tired of hearing these coaches. If you hit it, how about I meet you in the end zone 80 yards later? Go look at the first play, 2003 against Arkansas. You're going to see me. And all I'm saying is my coach said real football is when you want to see your football team have the glory. Meaning he said we treat football wrong. Your football players don't need you when they score the touchdown. They need you when they drop the pass. He said we do it wrong. So with me, anything I did individually, man, is because I'm sharing the field with 10 of the greatest players, in the world. And I tell them all the time, I said, look, man, what y'all call athleticism, I'm tired as hell. I'm trying to get out this. I'm trying to get to the end zone. I'm not the celebration guy. How Travis Kelce, I'm tired, bro. It's hot out here. I'm trying to get over there with that Gatorade. Listen. I got a gallon of Gatorade in me every game, guaranteed. No matter what, because I'm a country boy from Swainsboro, GA. They got to play big time college and NFL football, man. I don't lose sight of that. I don't lose sight of the fact that there go Brett Favre, and I'm trying to say, do I ask him for an autograph? Even though we got to try to go out here and beat him. There go Michael Strahan. There go Ray Lewis. There go Troy Polamalu. There go Steve McNair. So with me, these players, they start really thinking that the stuff they read is true. That's what Ron used to tell us. He says, how would you know what they say about you unless you listen to it and read it? How would you know? He used to get so mad at us saying, he says, listen, you're never as good as they say you are. You're never as bad as they say you are. He said, you are what you are when he would tell us that as long as no one knows, meaning what your parents say about you is because you're there. They have to.
Yeah.
They have to, right?
Yeah.
He said, but at the end of the day, every time I hear from you, I should hear you talking about those around you. Every time, because you are a byproduct of the greatness around you. That is football. Yep. I'm a byproduct of Rex Grossman, Jabbar Gaffney, Taylor Jacobs, Riche Caldwell, Bubba Caldwell, Chris Leak, Max Starks. These are some of the best players. Alex Browne, Mr. 5 sacks against Tennessee.
Yeah.
SEC play. Gerard Warren, 3rd overall pick in 2001. It was Michael Vick, offensive tackle from Texas. Gerard. These are the guys and my coach was Steve Spurrier, that bum. You see what I'm saying? So it's not like you said, I didn't know how much money I had. I spent it. I was like, dude, I kept saying, man, can I get 1,000? Like, that's it. And I'm talking about one of my teammates. So when I become whatever I became, from all SEC, all American, all that stuff, when I went into the Florida Georgia Game Hall of Fame, I felt a sense of understanding that I had to tell my teammates, man, I wish I knew all y'all names first and last, because this is more of y'all's than mine. I don't care about it. I appreciate it. I don't care about the accolades and the awards, but when people say, man, you know who I played with, and I just rattle. Listen, when Scottie Pippen said, I played with Jordan. I played with Dennis Rodman. I had Phil Jackson. Shaq could say I played with Kobe. You know, Magic could say, you know, I mean, I'm just saying I played with Kareem. For me, I got to play with some of the greatest, not some of the best. Yeah. And what happens is, so when people go, hey man, people say, hey man, Michael Jackson kid can sing and dance. Really? Michael Jackson kid? No, it would be a problem if he couldn't. It's Michael Jackson's kid. Tiger Woods' son play golf. What? He's not in construction? You see, so for me, I got to be for the John Mackey Award. I didn't even know who John Mackey was when I was up for the award, right? Yeah. And I lost to Kellen Winslow Jr., the son of Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow Jr. Yes. I think at the end of the day, man, I tell you all the time, man, my life is both a dream, right, and a reality at the same time. I'll take it, but my grandparents and family members in heaven right now saying, when the Troupe family, I got a cousin named Israel Troupe who went to Georgia. Never met him now. I've never met Israel a day in my life. And whenever we sit down with him, I'm going to say one thing to him. You made the wrong decision, Israel. Love you, never met you, but you went. When people say, hey, Troupe, you went to Georgia, right? I said, no, that's my cousin Israel. I haven't sat down with him, but I think he's a Yankees fan, and I think he root for Duke basketball.
No, you're right. Well, Ben, I mean, Ben's, you know, Bo, you've had the opportunity to interview a lot of people. And, you know, what Ben is saying is the best ones I've ever been around. They're all about the team and doing it that way. And that's how they get so close with everybody. I mean, Ben, Bo, I got to ask you something on journalism now. We're going to switch gears here. The last few minutes, we're about out of time. A lot going on with Georgia. Everybody says the Atlanta Journal-Constitution hates Georgia, trying to destroy the program, and all this stuff. It's investigative journalism. They're hiding behind it. You know, Dan Mathews on in the first segment. We talked about it, but it's not about getting the story first. It's about getting it right. But with what's happening with newspapers, people saying they're just trying to get readers or whatever like that. What's your take from 10,000 feet above the satellite view of Georgia football program right now? I mean, are they just going because they were winning so big, they're under the microscope? What's next?
I think that's right. Ben knows too. And I was going to tell Ben, the tight ends and the offensive linemen used to always be the best interviews because you guys were thoughtful, Ben. The running backs did, hey, how much yardage? They were always worried about their stats.
Yeah.
The guys in the trenches were good. No, it's part of it. Newspapers are having a tough time selling editions. It's all online. Alabama, I think, had 3. Huntsville, Birmingham, and Mobile papers all went online or whatever too. No print editions anymore. So it's totally about shock value or whatever too. And Georgia, unfortunately, I mean it's sad when you got 100. Ben knows this, when you got 120, 150 players with walk-ons or whatever. You're going to have an occasional thing. Somebody's going to be in a car accident. Somebody's going to have a sexual assault. I mean, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. Yeah. So it's just Ben and I know about it. We were in and Rob, we were in college. We just didn't get caught, I guess.
I had 125. Had 125 fraternity brothers. Some of them got drunk and didn't go to class. Some of them made buckshots. That's a 0.00.
It's coincidental with all the things we went through as far as student athletes. We've never said anything about each other. Like with all the books that come out.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's like this. It's like getting married, right? Yeah. Listen, you looking at your groom, they're looking at you saying, "You better not say." I ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's true though, Ben. You're right, and we all went to college. Good grief, man! The stuff that went. If cell phones and Instagram and all the stuff would have been around, God, I don't even want to go there. I'm glad we don't have to. I mean, but when your life is under a microscope and everybody's scrutinizing and breaking down everything you do, it's crazy. And one interesting thing. Along with Frank Duffy, the other world's most interesting man is Franz Beard, or as Doug Dean likes to call him. He goes, I like the more traditional Swiss-German Franz Beard. But Franz is a man of all seasons. Franz Beard was telling me a story a couple of weeks ago. I was laughing my arse off. He said, we were in Savannah, and I had a cooler of beer. We were watching them film a chase scene in the movie Smokey and the Bandit. Burt Reynolds was in, and Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed, I believe it was, were taking a break during the filming, and they came over, and Burt Reynolds says, "Man, you got any extra cold beers?" And Franz Beard said, "Why, yes, I do." And they drank cold beer with Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed. Now, how cool is that? But only Franz Beard, that would happen to Franz. I mean, you know,
out of everybody who was in that, out of everybody who, and think about the people that was watching France. I mean, I remember this time when we were sitting there watching some guy. But you know what? I think the thing about this too, though, Stephen A. Smith said that they asked him why he wanted to get into sports journalism, and he said, because I didn't want the sports world, I wanted the whole world. The whole world comes through this whole thing, right? And if you're at Georgia or Alabama, a lot of people, it's easy to say, "Oh, what are these young men doing?" They do what young men do, because at the end of the day, I'm a student and I'm an athlete, but I still want to enjoy college. I'm not saying name a person that don't push the rules when I know somebody gonna be there, to help me. I mean, one of my growing up in Swainsboro, Georgia, the most prominent person, even though may he rest in peace, his name was Tyson Stevens. He was a sheriff there. He had a son named Josh. Josh was the most noticeable kid in Swainsboro public schools. You know why? Because his daddy is a sheriff. So when they say, "Be quiet, Josh," and Josh look at him, he be like, "Wait a minute," because everybody does that. I think what happens is we need to stop being so hard on these young people as if to say we've never done anything. And so I just think that I'm not going to rag on the Georgia players because they getting out. You notice, right? This is how it goes, though. When they're winning, it doesn't come out. It doesn't come out till after the winning stops. Everything calms down. But for everybody, that Georgia's not going to vacate one national championship. They still want it. I don't like it, but they still want it. And I think that for everybody who listen, when people say this, people say going to Georgia and the Floridas and Alabama, it's like making six figures at a Fortune 500 company. Making six figures don't come with 9 to 5 responsibilities. They just don't. They just don't. So I think they need to lay off the young people so much because like this, if you see them in person, they big people now. They're not small people. They ain't got no hair on their face. Kirby Smart is running. He's running the best program he had because. Listen, it's hard enough for me. I got 3 kids. It's hard as hell to keep up with them 3. I can only imagine 85 to 150. You don't think that 150 people gonna make some mistakes now and again?
Yeah. Look, guys, you're right. We run out of time, but I got to tell you, look, I'm an Auburn man. Bo is a Vandy man. Was at Mississippi State. Been around. You're a Florida Gator. Look, if they're doing stupid stuff, punish the guys. Hold them accountable. They got to do that, But I'm just, again, if you're going to run a story, don't try to be first. Make sure you get it right. And most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And folks, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. What a great show today. Dan Mathews kicked us off over in Atlanta. Hunter and Baughman talking about bass fishing. You can't go bass fishing without drinking some cold beer in the boat, of course, with a designated driver. Of course, I must add that. But Ben Troupe from ESPN Coastal, eating some low country stew for breakfast, having a cold Hams beer, looking out over the water of Savannah, one of the first planned cities in America. Bo Carter, Carrollton, Texas, Baseball Writers Association of America, National Football Foundation, just one of the good people, kind of the Andy Griffith of this show. Smart, witty, incredible listener, great writer, and all of the people that have been listening, our sponsors today. Thanks so much. Got a great show lined up tomorrow. Frank Duffy, hopefully Doug Dean can join us. We will have Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers, basketball writer, Hall of Fame writer, great football writer, the Birmingham Leads, Kevin Skarbinski, and Buddy Martin is going to be back on with us tomorrow. Good. Buddy checked in, said, "Hey, I've been out a while. Will you still have me?" I said, "My God, you better believe it. You've been in our prayers and always will be every day." I said, you gave this show whatever credibility it has, and so is Bo and Ben, our great guests. Looking forward to a great Saturday roundtable. Go out and make a positive difference. Let people know they matter. Have a great day. We are out of here. Let's make a deal. Monty Hall, we'll see you tomorrow.